telling you today a story. It's a true story that happened during the Second World War in Niihau, and it was on it's called the Niihau incident, and it was on the 7th December 1941, and there was the Japanese pilot. His name is Nishi Kaiichi. He was 22 years old, and he was flying escort for bombers attacking Pearl Harbor and other military stations on Oahu. During those attacks, it happened that other American fighters showed up, and there was that huge air battle, and his plane got hit, but he could escape. It wasn't so bad, and at the beginning he thought the damage wasn't bad at all. But then he saw that his fuel and his petrol became less and less, and he knew he wouldn't make it back to the rendezvous place. So he remembered that he had a morning briefing, and they told him, if anything happens, try to get to that little island. It's called Niihau. And he was told that the island was uninhabited, and the plan was that later there would be a submarine showing up and collecting all these pilots being on Niihau. So Niihau was 130 miles away from where he was, and watching his petrol and his fuel, he thought, yeah, I can make it to Niihau. And he made it there, flew over the island, and saw, well, there's that big central building and some other buildings, and he come close and say there are people walking around, so clearly it wasn't uninhabited. But he had no other chance, and either he would just crash land in the ocean, or he would try to make a landing on Niihau. And somehow he managed to land his little airplane on that island. The Niihauans were well prepared. They had on every potential landing place stones and everything, and he more or less really crash landed there. And the Niihauans, for sure, they saw him landing, and it happened that there was Howard. It is a Niihauan, and is one of those few native Hawaiians that were able to speak English. And he was the first one at the crash landing, helping the pilot getting out of the airplane. So he came, talked to Nishi Kaiichi, and Nishi Kaiichi's English was very little. All he could say was, "Are you Japanese?" and Howard said, "No, I'm Hawaiian." And that was all on communication they could do. So what he did, he took his shotgun away and something that looked for him like official papers, and took him to his place, to his wife that served him breakfast, and it was clear that he needed someone to translate. So they were asking, there was a beekeeper, he was 60 years old at that time, and he was asking him to translate because the beekeeper was Japanese. But he lived since 40 years in Niihau and was American citizens, and all his children were raised on Niihau. And he just felt so uncomfortable in this situation, and when he saw that this was a pilot, and he just changed some words with Nishi Kaiichi, and all what was known is that he turned completely white and left the house and refused to translate further. So the second choice to translate came to the Harada's family. Yoshio Harada was around 40 years old, and his parents were both Japanese. He just happened to be born on the Hawaiian Islands that made him an American citizen. His wife was Japanese wife, and all his 3 brothers lived still in Japan. And he had the problem that the Hawaiians never really considered him as being Hawaiian, but more than Japanese. But he knew fluent Japanese and English, so he was the man to translate. And Nishi Kaiichi told him about the attacks on Pearl Harbor. On Niihau, it wasn't known at that period of time that America is now in war with Japan. The news didn't come to Niihau. And yeah, Haradas decided to keep this information to himself. He didn't trust any side and didn't say it. So Nishikaichi was invited later in the evening to a big luau, and he even sang Japanese songs and borrowed a guitar, and everyone was happy, and probably he just wondered when the submarine will show up to rescue him. But the submarine never showed up. And then later in the evening, by radio, the news reached me how that the happenings on the big on Pearl Harbor in Oahu, Honolulu, and they questioned the pilot from New, and this time Haradas had no choice, but he translated it. So the big question was what to do with that pilot now, because, well, he crash landed, he was treated as a friend, and they still treated him as a guest, but not as a very welcome one. But he was hosted at the place where the luau was, and the Harada stayed with him, that he had someone to talk with. And they had several guards for him, just to watch what's going to happen. And in the meanwhile, the Nihauans, they discussed what to do. And the Robinson family that owned the island, they weren't on the island, but they came to visit the island every week. So that they were supposed to show up at the 8th of December. And they decided to wait another day and let them decide what to do or how to go further. What they didn't know was that the water bridge between Kauai and Niihau was closed because of the war happening. And so the Robinson family wouldn't show up. But in the meantime, one day passed by, and Nishikaichi had a lot of time to talk to Haradas, and he saw that Haradas was torn between his Japanese heritage and the American citizenship. And in those 2 days, he convinced Haradas that the right thing to do is just to help him, and that it's better to die in honor than doing nothing and just waiting. So Haradas managed that he stole a pistol and a shotgun, and put that pistol and shotgun, loaded it, and put it in his warehouse. And he came back to Haradas and told his wife and Haradas that he has shotguns, and they just told the guard that they have to go to that warehouse, and that he wants to show him something, and the guard was completely unsuspected. He just followed them, and in the warehouse they took the shotgun and the pistol, locked the guard in the warehouse, and the goal of Nishikaichi was getting his official papers back. These were the plain papers with our very confidential information about the war happening. And so they went back to Howard and wanted to get the papers back from him. But when they showed up both with the weapon at Howard's house, they thought he wasn't there, but he was in the meanwhile hiding in the back of his house, saw them coming, knew that something is very strange. And just when Howard tried to flee, Nishikaichi saw him and tried to shoot him, but he was too late. So Howard went into the village and warned all the village people. In the meanwhile, the guard could free himself out of the warehouse and ran also to the village, and that's why every village people, they just fled to remote areas on the island. And Nishikaichi and Harada went to the village and shot with their guns in the air and asked Howard to come out, but no one showed up. What Howard did, he set a big fire as a signifier, and he decided that it's better that he tries to paddle to Kauai to look help. So he was off the island by now. And the only one that Nishikaichi and Haradas managed to catch for a moment was Ben Kanahele and his wife. They came back to the village to get some food, and they just crossed their way unhappily, and so they were their new prisoners. They had Ben Kanahele, and Ben Kanahele was that huge Hawaiian. He was 6 feet tall, a huge Hawaiian guy. He saw that scene and those two people, and he started to talk Hawaiian to Herodotus and said, well, make him take him the weapons away. What are you doing there? And Herodotus was just looking and didn't do anything, and refused to do what Ben Kanahele said. But he kind of indicated to Herodotus that he also need a pistol, and Herodotus, Nishikaichi, he indicated to Hishinakaichi that he also needs a pistol, and Nishikaichi handed him over his pistol, still having his shotgun. That moment, Ben Kanahele just went to Nishikaichi, but he was faster, and Nishikaichi shot him in the chest and in his hip and in the leg. And Ben Kanahele was just so enraged that with the swans, he grabbed Nishikaichi and threw him against the wall. And Ben Kanahele's wife helped him and threw a stone on Nishikaichi's head. And Ben Kanahele finally killed Nishikaichi with a knife. In this moment, Herodotus saw what he had done and decided that he committed suicide and took a knife and committed suicide on his own. That's not quite the end of the story. As on the next day, Howard managed to go over to Kauai, and they had a boat came over, and Ben Kanahele, he recovered from his wounds, and in 1945 he got the Medal of Merit and the Purple Heart, got awarded with that. And in Nishikaichi, in his hometown, it is in Champaign, in Hashihama, and he got also his monument, and in this monument there's engraved that his meritorious deed will live forever.